सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। So we were looking at the Bhashya, where Bhashyakara is arguing with different types of Dvaitis. Okay, so here first one of the Dvaitis said that the Jivatma itself is presented as this Jagat Karanam, which was negated. Then the other Dvaiti came and said that Paramatma is Asamsari and Jivatma is Samsari, and Paramatma alone can be the Jagat Karanam because there are so many Shruti and Smriti Vakyas to support that. And when Bhashyakara negated that Dvaitin's argument, saying that Paramatma and Jivatma are separate because one is Asamsari, another is Samsari, what did Bhashyakara point out? He first quoted the Pravesha Shruti by showing that Brahman alone has become the Jiva. So this Pravesha Shruti is there in all the different Upanishads. So by showing that, he initially negated the view of the Dvaitin that Paramatma and Jivatma are separate. Then the Vedavadin came and he said that no, I am the one who is interpreting everything correctly, where the Jivatma and Paramatma are both different and also non-different, looking when depending on how you look at it and all that. Okay, so and I am the only one who is giving the right interpretation, because now both the Bheda Vakyas and Abheda Vakyas can be considered properly. Whatever the Upanishad is revealing can be understood properly if you accept Bheda Vada. Okay, Bheda also is there, Abheda also is there. Now Bhashyakara here, this already we saw, if Bheda is to be accepted, there can be only three gati or possibilities. One is you have a collection of things which we call like earth. Earth is a collection of different substances, correct? It is a compound or a collection or a group, and in which one of the substance is a Chaitanyam, and that Chaitanyam is becoming, or it actually modifies Vikara, because this Vedavadin also says that there is Vikara. The Paramatma alone has become the Jivatma, but still the Paramatma is Asamsari also, because one portion of Paramatma is Asamsari, another is Samsari, which is Jivatma. In such cases, how this thing can come about, Bhashyakara is trying to show. One option is like on the earth, there are many substances are there. Clay is one of the substances, and from that you make a pot, let us say. Then similarly, there are many substances put together. Out of the is, or one substance is Chaitanyam, which has then become Jivatma, means the individual self, which is also an aware, conscious being. Now, in this scenario, let us say, is that Paramatma itself cannot be a single thing, correct? It is simply a compound, and for convenience, we are calling it by a single name. Like Earth is one name given to a particular planet, but it can be looked upon as many, actually it is many different substances, let us say. So the Ekatvam of the Paramatma itself can become a problem. And then again this Parinama is there, means there also the Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam also will not be possible anymore. The Abheda which they want to establish also will have a problem. Then the other option is Paramatma is only one, but it is having many different parts which are always together. Okay, they are not different substances or anything. It is like an aggregate of things which are always connected to each other. Like even a cloth is nothing but an aggregate of yarns which are always in a particular, they are put together in a particular manner, correct? In that, one part alone has become this Jiva. Now this is what is the traditional Vishishtadvaita kind of Siddhanta also. Okay, so Ekadesha Vikaritvam they call it, means one part of the whole has become the Jiva. The other parts are all still Asamsari, Paramatma and all that. Now here also there is a problem. Okay, so Bhashyakara points out that this will also not work out, because the Amsha, Amshi, if you talk about all these parts and a whole, then the Savayavatvam will come to the Paramatma, means it will be with parts. But there are so many Shruti Vakyas which is saying that Brahman is partless, Brahman is always a whole, and it doesn't have any activity. Okay, all this, so many Vakyas are there. So that being the case, and it cannot change also, correct? If it is avikarya, means basically it cannot also change. It doesn't have any activity, it cannot change, it doesn't modify into anything else. So with all these things, Shruti Pramana also does not support them really. Then logically also they will have a problem, because you cannot have something which is Savayava, which is having parts, which can be Nitya also, and which can be all pervading and all that. So that is not supported. They are illogical really. So when the illogical part is pointed out, one of the interesting argument which they gave was, no, Shruti is more powerful than Anumana, and therefore even if it is illogical, we have to accept the Shruti. This is the point he is trying to make now, once thrown into a corner. He is trying to portray himself as though they are great Vaidikas. They go by Shruti alone. But then Bhashyakara beautifully he explains how one has to interpret the Shruti. This is the most important part, in fact. So what he says is, each Pramana reveals its own unique field of knowledge, correct? So that being the case, one Pramana cannot contradict another Pramana. Okay, if one contradicts the other, then if the contradicting Pramana is Balavat, or it is supposed to be the valid one, means then the other Pramana we have to re-evaluate whatever we think it is revealing to us. Okay, so here this is the important point. Nacha pramanam pramanantarena viruddhyate is a very important principle. This is what is called anadhigatam, abadhitam. Prama or valid means of knowledge, how do we define? It has to be something which is uniquely revealed, not available in any other ways, and it should not be negated by any other cognition or knowledge which is already revealed. These two principles are very important when we talk about knowledge in general. So whatever is revealed by a pramana is really pramana antara avishayam. This is the important point. It cannot be a Vishaya or an object of knowledge for some other Pramana. So how do we understand that? It's very simple, correct? Colors are revealed only by your eyes. Sounds are revealed only by your ears. Ears cannot come and say that I will validate whatever the eyes are revealing. Neither eyes can validate or negate what the ears are revealing. So each Pramana has its own field of revelation. Even Anumana, for example, Anumana is dependent on prior perception and all that, but in a particular situation, whatever Anumana is revealing can only be revealed by the Anumana or the inference, correct? For example, I am sitting here and at a distance I am seeing a smoke on the hills because outside my window I can see hills here. Western Ghats are there in our village. Now, if I am seeing smoke there, what do I infer? I infer that there is fire on the hill. Now, this cannot be revealed. The fire itself I have not seen, correct? That is not pratyaksha for me. So if the fire is not pratyaksha, in the current situation where I am sitting here, but able to see the smoke at a distance, Anumana alone can reveal the fire. Is that clear? Of course, later on I can, if I can travel fast enough, I can even go there and see whether really fire is there as a pratyaksha. Then pratyaksha is the pramana there. But in the current scenario, Anumana alone reveals the fire to me, correct? Even there. So in a given situation, whatever pramana reveals has to be a pramanantara avishaya. That is an important thing we have to understand. So from all these things, what do we understand is whatever is revealed by the Shruti cannot be illogical. Understand that. It can be beyond logic. It cannot be illogical. This same point Bhashyakara will even talk about later in Bhagavad Gita Bhashya also. He says, even if 100 Shrutis come and tell me that fire is cold, I cannot accept it. I have to reinterpret the Shruti Vakya then. So that is an important principle here Bhashyakara points out. And therefore, whatever interpretation you do should not contradict an existing facts, existing knowledge, whether it is revealed by Anumana or Pratyaksha, whether it is revealed by sense perception or inference, whatever established valid knowledge should not be contradicted by what the Shruti is revealing. This is an important principle. What about all this? How does Shruti even reveal anything then? Because whatever it is revealing is totally something new means. That is really the magic of knowledge, correct? Because anything we learn through only words which we already know. But if you know the words already, then how are you even getting new knowledge? That is a very interesting thing to think about, but that's how it works, correct? So maybe the words and whatever experience and all that we have to relate that, and somehow we are picking up new knowledge, correct? So here also, even though Shruti is revealing alaukika, because basically Pratyaksha and Anumana are good enough to know about the perceptible world. The objective perceptible world is good enough. Whether the perception is simply sense perception or enhanced sense perception using telescope, microscope, electron microscope and all that are also there. So as the perception enhances, the inference also will become better. Okay, it has more perceptual data so that you can do more inference. Like that, knowledge is increasing. We have no problem with that. But none of that is even in the field of what Shruti is revealing. Whatever Shruti is revealing is a totally different field where neither perception nor Anumana have any access. So this is what even in the Rigveda Bhashya Bhumika itself, Sainacharya says in the beginning of the Rigveda Bhashya, in the introduction, he says, Pratyakshena anumityava yastu upayona buddhyate yenam vidanti vedena tasmad vedasya vedata. This is a very commonly quoted thing also. Whatever is not available through Pratyaksha or Anumana, that alone is revealed by the Veda, and that is why it is even Veda. Okay, otherwise Veda is not required, correct? If Veda is only restating whatever science or whatever Pratyaksha and Anumana can reveal to you, then we don't even require the Veda. You can go along with only Pratyaksha and Anumana or modern science and all that. That is why even I have a problem when people talk about Veda being scientific. So in fact, Veda should not be scientific. Then only it is really a means of knowledge. Whatever is scientific, I will know through scientists only. I don't have to come to the Veda for that. Even if something which is said by the Veda is later on scientifically validated and all that, it is fine. That's okay. It's only an anuvada or restatement, or Veda may have stated something. What is the tatparya of the Veda there? We have to see. So Veda does restate many things, and we can justifiably be proud about what our ancestors knew, and whatever they knew also did not contradict or does not contradict even the current scientific knowledge, is something we can be proud of. But we don't have to claim that Veda is scientific and all that based on that. In fact, Veda should not be scientific is the main thing. So here, then how do we even know what Veda is really revealing to us? That is where Bhashyakara again pointed out upakrama upasamharabhyancha. Okay, from how the particular topic is started, how it is ending, and in between again other lingas are all there, which is well established by the Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsakas themselves have given out the principles of interpreting and finding out what is the intention of the Veda, what it is trying to reveal. So there are 6 lingas are there, are indications. Based on that, we do understand what is the tatparya, or what is the intention of the Veda, what it is trying to reveal. So pointing it out, Bhashyakara did point out that how the whole teaching starts and how it ends. So there is no doubt from all these things that this Paramatma Ekatva Pratyaya Dradimne Utpatti Sthiti Laya Pratipadakani Vakyani iti. Up to this we saw, I think, last time. So from looking at the Upanishad Vakyas, by analyzing them using the principles given by Purva Mimamsa, we can clearly come to the conclusion that Paramatma Ekatva Pratyaya only the Upanishads want to really reveal. They want to reveal the oneness of the Paramatma, and Jivatma also is not separate from the Paramatma, because that is all part of the oneness of Paramatma. And to make that knowledge firm only, it is even talking about all the creation, sustenance, and dissolution or resolution of this world. Because the world has to be accounted for, correct? Because we are perceiving. Advaita means, it doesn't mean that we deny the perception of duality. Some people have this confusion, correct? Advaita doesn't deny the perception of duality. In fact, it only denies the reality of the duality. Understand this. There is a big difference between the two. In fact, many times some Dvaitins, Vishishta Dvaitins and all argue with me. They come and say, no, if you interpret Advaita as the teaching of Upanishad, then it is against Pratyaksha. Because by sense perception, we are seeing duality. I also agree we are seeing duality. I am not denying the seeing of duality, correct? In fact, I use the same seeing as a reason to say that it is mithya. Understand that. In fact, in the Advaita Siddhi, Madhusudana Saraswati uses the same hetu, or the hetu here means is the reason for saying why the world is mithya. Because the Dvaitin says the Jagat Satyam Pratyakshatvat, or whatever, Drishyatvat, he says. Because I see it, world is real. Now what does the Advaitin say? And he says Gatavat, like even pot. Pot is real. We fill water in it. We drink water from the pot. Okay, so like even pot is real, world is real because I see it. Then what does the Advaitin say? Jagan Mithya. Okay, what is the logic or reason? Drishyatva, same thing, because I see it. How can you use the same reason? Swapnavat, like even the dream. So understand it, just perception does not establish the reality of anything. Okay, so when we talk about the reality of the world, we are not denying the perception of world. They are two different things. Even while perceiving sunrise, we can deny sunrise, correct? We can say only earth is moving, sun does not really rise. Or even while perceiving blue sky, we can say sky is not blue, akasha or space is not blue. So perception does not establish the reality of anything. So that is what we have to understand here. And anyway, here, why does the Upanishad even talk about all this Utpatti, Sthiti, Laya and all that means? To explain away this world. Why the Srishti Prakriya does not have a Tatparya of its own. It is only to reveal the Ekatvam. It is also a means because the Srishti Prakriya shows Brahman as the only cause and the entire world as the effect. And what is the implication of that? The cause is Satyam, effect is Mithya, because Mithya does not have any existence of its own. Understand that. So even the Utpatti, Sthiti, Laya, Pratipadakani, Vakyani, all the sentences which reveal this creation and sustenance and resolution of the world, they are all Paramatma Ekatva Pratyaya Dradhimne to establish firmly that Paramatma alone is there, that alone is Satyam, everything else is Mithya. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, one important principle Bhashyakara again brings, Anyatha Vakya Bheda Prasangacha. Otherwise, you have to now say there is a Vakya Bheda. Vakya Bheda means what? There is one subject matter till here, and when the Srishti Prakriya starts, the subject matter is totally different. Now, how can there be two different subject matters? Of course, in the Veda, so many different subjects are discussed. We do not deny that. But the Upanishads are starting and they are teaching something. In between, if you say, no, the subject has changed now, you have to give proper reason for that, correct? You cannot simply say that when the Srishti has started, the subject matter has changed. You cannot do that. In fact, the established rule in Mimamsa is what? Sambhavati eka vakyatve vakya bedascha neshyate. Like that, there is a nyaya is there. So, in fact, Bhashyakara paraphrases it differently here. We will come to that. So, if something can be explained as in a single subject matter, all the vakyas are pointing to only this, then you should go with that only. If you can do that, then you don't have to divide something and say this is some other subject matter, that is some other subject matter, like that. You don't have to do. That is there is a principle like that. If a section can be established as only revealing a particular subject matter, you have to go along with that. So Vakya Veda, if you want to establish, means typically you have to also show if the subject matter changes, the phala also has to be different. You have to give a separate result, because Shruti, unlike Pratyaksha, is phalavat artha bodhakatvam also has to be there. All the knowledge which we gain through our sense organs are not really useful to us many times, correct? If you go into a stinking place, your nose will still report that stink, even though it is useless to you or it is harmful to you. But Shruti cannot be like that. Shruti is a deliberate means of knowledge using words. Whatever it reveals has to have some purpose, some proper result, some fruits have to be there. It cannot be fruitless, useless revelation. Simply if it says that some the kaka or the crow in heaven is white, if it says something like that, it is useless, correct? Unless you are able to connect it to something else and make some meaning out of it. So phalavat artha bodhakatvam has to be there, and different phala if you are able to show, then you can say that this subject matter is now new. It is some other subject matter. But here you cannot show anything like that. The Srishti Prakriya itself does not have any phala of its own. It is simply a part of the existing subject matter, where that itself is actually making this knowledge of oneness firmer. So Bhashyakara here finally says, Sarva Upanishatsu hi Vijnanatmanaha Paramatmana Ekatva Pratyaha Vidhiyate iti Avvipratipattihi Sarvesham Upanishad Vadina. So all the people who swear by Upanishad Vadina, see, Bhashyakara is a Upanishad Vadi or a Brahma Vadi. Understand that. The Dvaitins and Vishishtadvaitins call Shankara as Mayavadi. That itself is a wrong connotation. Understand that. Shankara did not introduce Maya. Maya is there in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan many times uses the word Maya. Mama Maya and all he says. Mama Maya Duratyaya. Maya, and then the Upanishad itself says Mayantu Prakritim Vidyat Mayinam tu Maheshwaram. So Maya is there. It is a way of explaining the duality. Bhashyakara is really a Upanishadvadi or a Brahmavadi. He is only interested in Brahma Ekatvam. Maya is only a explanatory device, I would say. Correct? It is nothing more than that. We are not committed. In fact, Maya can be understood by every scientist today very easily. Everybody knows how if you go for the fundamental particles and the truth of the material world, whatever you see in macro level has got it's all totally different at the quantum level and micro level and all that, correct? So then whatever you see at the macro level is only an appearance, really. That every scientist understands that. That's not a big deal. So all the Upanishad Vadis, those who go by whatever Upanishad is revealing, they have no differences amongst themselves. Avvipratipattihi means what? They are all unanimous in saying what? This, all the Upanishad Vakyas, the only subject matter is there. There is what? Paramatma and Vijnanatma. Vijnanatma here is the individual self. Paramatma, they both are one only. Ekatva Pratyaha. To establish the identity, that is the Mahavakya, correct? Mahavakya is basically an equation. And establishing the identity alone is their Tatparyam. Here, all the Upanishad Vadis, at least up to Bhashyakara's time, whoever was there in the Sampradaya, they all agreed that. So he makes a bold statement like that. And Tad Vidyeka Vakya Yogecha Sambhavati. So now Tad means here Upanishad Vakyas. So if the Upanishad Vakyas have only one subject matter, correct? Eka Vakya Yogya means what? This Brahma Vidya Vidhi is there. Niyama Vidhi, Bhashyakara accepts in 1.4. If you see 147, I think, and even later on in Brahma Sutra and all that. So even you have to know this Brahman, means that is taken as a Vidhi, let us say. That mandate has only Ekavakyata, means about that only then the entire Upanishad is talking. Brahma Vidya is the subject matter. Brahma Ekatva Jnanam there also. If that is possible, if all the Vakyas of the Upanishads can be interpreted to reveal that one subject matter, then you cannot bring in a totally new subject matter. Understand that. So you cannot now say Utpatti, etc. Vakyas, the creation related sentences are revealing something else, when already you can interpret all of them as revealing only the subject matter of Brahma Vidya. So Tad Vidhi Eka Vakya Yogecha Sambhavati Utpatyadi Vakyanam Vakyantaratva Kalpanayam Na Pramanamasti. There is no Pramana, or you cannot in a valid manner say that the creation statements are all now revealing Dvaita, or it is having some other meaning or subject matter and all that. All of them are only to reveal the Ekatva of Paramatma. Therefore, what? Palantarancha kalpaitavyam syat. Okay, if you say that, no, the Srishti Vakyas are really only revealing duality, means by knowing duality through the Veda, what is the phala? In fact, already you know that Avichara Siddha, Dvaita is Avichara Siddha. My Guruji used to say a story about Murari the barber, correct? It seems that there was a Advaiti Guru to whom Advaiti went and he challenged for a debate. Then the Advaita Guru said, it seems, wait, I have to get myself shaved. Okay. So I'll call the barber. You can sit here while the barber is working. Okay. So he called the barber Murari. And before Murari started his work, he asked Murari, "Hey Murari, do you know who is Narayana?" Then Murari says, "Yes, Narayana, Lord Narayana. Narayana is Ishvara. He is the Lord." Then this Advaiti Guru says, "Are you and Narayana identical?" Murari says, "No, no, no. How can you say that? I am this Murari who is a barber, who is ignorant, who is leading this whatever life, pathetic life, let us say. And how can you equate me with Narayana?" But this Advaiti Guru says, "No, no, no, you are Narayana. I am going to do Namaskara to you." So he wants to do Namaskara to Murari. "You are Narayana." Murari runs away. He ran away. He did not want to stand there and take the Namaskara of this whatever Guru, the great person. Then seeing that, what did this Dvaiti now think? This Dvaiti person has spent 12 years, let us say, because any Shastra in our tradition, you have to study for 12 years to master. Now, whatever he studied for 12 years and what is the conclusion he has arrived, already Murari, without doing any study, any analysis, the same thing is there, correct? So Dvaita, whatever, Dvaita and all is Avichara Siddha really. You don't have to study Shastra. Shastra need not come and reveal that. Pratyaksha is all the time revealing Dvaita. We are not even denying that. Whether the reality of that revelation is being questioned, correct? So, if you have a kalpana that this Shruti Vakyas, which are revealing Srishti, creation, etc., are actually revealing some other subject matter other than this Brahma Ekatvam, you have to show a result for that also, which nothing is there. In the Shruti itself, the Srishti Vakyas are all not really a separate prakriya or anything. Understand that they do not have a result of their own by reading them, that or after reading that you have to do something and gain something. Nothing like that is there. Therefore, what? Tasmad utpatyadi shruteyaha atma ekatva pratipadana paraha. Therefore, what? All the Shruti Vakyas which are talking about creation, in fact, they do not even talk about creation in the same manner. That also we account for by saying that, because that's not the Tatparya itself. Different Upanishads talk about Srishti in different manners, but all of them are trying to use that to actually show the Ekatva of the Paramatma. So that is the important point here. Therefore, having this whatever this Vispulinga, the spark analogy is not a problem for us. In fact, that will be now talked about even more later on. Again, this same spark analogy, how to interpret it correctly, we'll see that. Okay, next Bhashyakara goes into a story. So to interpret this spark analogy correctly, Bhashyakara is now giving a story. So he says, Atracha Sampradaya Vidaha Akhyayikam Samprachakshate. So those who know the teaching tradition, okay, the methodology to teach Sampradaya Vidaha Akhyayikam, there is a story told by those who know the methodology of teaching. Okay, who is the Sampradaya with Bhashyakara is referring to here? That Anandagiri only has to help us. Anandagiri in the Tika says that it is Dravidacharya. Bhashyakara is quoting a story of Dravidacharya. So there has been an Acharya called Dravidacharya. Who this Dravidacharya, scholars are not able to identify properly. Different people have different opinions. And there is no, I don't think any complete work of Dravidacharya has survived right now. But from whatever Bhashyakara is quoting in the Brahma Sutra, Mandukya Karika also, he quotes Dravidacharya. From all that, we have some idea that Dravidacharya has been there, and then this is what some very small portions of his, from the quotations of Bhashyakara only, we glean certain things. So here, this story is from Dravidacharya. And what is the story here? Kaschit kila Rajaputraha Jatamatra eva Matru Pitrubhyam Apaviddaha Vyadhagrihe Samvardhitaha. So there was a prince, and as soon as he was born, his father and mother, for whatever reason, they had to give him up. And then what? He grew up in the house of a hunter, Vyadhagrihe. And then Saha Ashya Vamshyatam Ajanan Vyadajati Pratyaha Vyadajati Karmani Eva Anuvartate. So now, right now, what he doesn't know that he is a prince and all that, correct? So he doesn't know about his own birth. And without knowledge of that means avidya. So now Bhashyakara is establishing that, or Dravidacharya I have to say, because this story is Dravidacharya's. So the Sampradaya with Acharya says that establishes avidya is there. Now due to avidya, whatever karma you do, they are all born out of that ignorance. So avidya and its karya is being shown here. So this prince is now only doing the work of a hunter, means he goes and take the meat and then he is selling it, whatever, or he is using it. All this karma only is doing, hunting. Na raja asmi iti rajajati karmani anuvartate, na anuvartate. So he doesn't do anything like what a king does normally. I am the king, therefore I have to rule, I have to do this, nothing like that. Again what? Yada punaha kaschit paramakarunikaha rajaputrasya rajashri prapti yogyatam janan amushya putratam bodayati. So then what? When a very kind person, having known the reality of this prince, okay, that he is really a prince and not just a hunter, okay, and knowing that he is fit to be the king, tells him that, now he tells him that you are really the son of the king and queen. You are not a hunter. Okay. So he says that Nat Tum Vyadaha Amushya Rajnyaha Putraha. So you are not a hunter. In fact, now you are the son of the king. Okay. Katanchit Vyaghra Griham Anupravishtaha. Somehow you entered this house of hunter and then you grew up there. Okay. But you are not really a hunter. Your reality is that you are a prince, you are a king now. Assuming that existing king also has died. So once he is told like that, what happens now? Sa evam bodhitaha. Okay, in this manner being instructed, Tyaktva vyada jati pratyaya karmani pitramahim atmanaha padavim anuvartate. So giving up whatever was his occupation as a hunter, okay, now he is taking up the kingly duties or royal duties like his own father or grandfather. Pitru Paita Mahim means Pita Maha, then Tadita Paita Mahim it becomes. So Pitru Paita Mahim Atmanaha Padavim. So now his own status is that he is now taking up the duties of a king. Rajaham Asmi iti. Like knowing that I am now the king, I am no more the hunter. And then so he is now behaving like a king. Tathakila Ayam Parasmat Agni Vispulingadivat Tajatihi eva vibhaktaha iha dehendriyadi gahane pravishtaha asamsari san dehendriyadi samsara dharmam anuvartate dehendriya sangataha asmi krishaha stulaha sukhi dukhi iti paramatmatam ajanan atmanaha. Okay, so here now Bhashyakara is trying to link this story with the Vispulinga analogy, okay, the spark analogy. So previously what both the Ajnana Dasha and Jnana Dasha is shown in the story, correct? In the Ajnana Dasha, he thinks he is a hunter and he is doing the work of a hunter. Once instructed, and then once he knows that no more I am a hunter, I am a king, means then he is now doing the kingly duties. Like that, here also Bhashyakara is pointing out what? Paramatma Agni Vispulingadivat tad jatihi eva vibhaktaha. So the spark is there with the fire. It was one with the fire originally, but then once it separates out, even though it is still by its nature it is still fire only, but it is now a small fire, as though it has become small. Like even the sky has become, or the space has become part space. Similarly, the fire which was one, from that one spark got separated. Okay, but still it is the same jati, or it is the still fire only, correct? By nature it is still fire, even though it is a spark, it is still a fire. But it is separated. Tad jatihi eva vibhaktaha iha dehendriyadi gahane pravishtaha. So it has entered into all this deha, indriya. Okay. But even when it is entered, this means it now identifies with the body mind sense complex. It is really asamsari. Like even though the prince entered the house of the hunter and does all the work of hunter, thinking he is a hunter, in reality he is prince only, correct? He is still prince only. His princeness has not gone away. Being a prince only, he is living like a hunter. Similarly, here also, even though you have identity with this body mind sense complex, still you are asamsari. In reality, you are asamsari, but still what? Being an asamsari only, dehendriyadi samsara dharmam anuvartate. You behave as though you are a samsari, you are a limited being. You take the qualities of the body mind sense complex as your own qualities, and then you behave accordingly, you live a life accordingly. Dehendriya sangataha asmi. Okay, so I am nothing but a compound or collection of this deha and indriyas. Therefore, what happens? All their dharmas, qualities become your qualities. Prishaha, sthulaha, sukhi, dukhi. So all these different qualities, about by identifying with the body, what happens? I am fat, correct? So all this thinking is there. There is a problem. All the qualities, like I am blind, I am deaf, all the qualities of indriya, all the qualities of the body are all then your qualities. Then because of that you have sukha and dukkha also. I don't like my body, it is too fat, I am not able to even get up, or I am not even able to sit through the class, all these problems. So you have happiness, you have sorrow, you go through all those things because of the identity with the deha and indriya and manas. Why? Because paramatmatam ajanan, not knowing your own reality, that you are the paramatma, you are the limitless conscious being, that knowledge is not there. So the self is not separate from the limitless conscious being, which is the cause of this entire universe. Not knowing that, you are going through. So natvam etad atmakaha parameva brahmasmi asamsari iti pratiboditaha acharyena. So at that time, what? The guru teaches you. What does the guru teach you, and what do you understand from that? What do you know from the guru? That you are not this limited individual pathetic being. In fact, in reality, you are the limitless Brahman, and you are asamsari. You are not somebody who is lacking anything. You are not a wanting being leading a life of becoming. No, you are the limitless. You are the whole. You are the source of all happiness. That is the teaching. Having known this, then what? Hitva yeshanat traya anuvrittim. So once you know this, now you have no more desires. Putraishana, Vittaishana, Lokaishana, like that. 3 yeshanas or desires are talked about. More than desires, longing. So you have a longing to have children. You have a longing to go to some loka, swarga loka and all that. You have a longing to have a lot of wealth, lot of things you want to accumulate in this world. Because you think you are limited, you think by accumulating many things, the limitations will go away, but it never happens like that, correct? It is a vicious cycle. So this yeshanatraya you give up because in your knowledge about yourself, you are no more a wanting being. You do not lack anything. Therefore, you don't have to desire for anything, because everything is as though already fulfilled. You do not lack anything means what is there to desire? Nothing to be desired. You are Brahman, Brahmaiva aham asmi, Brahmaiva asmi iti pratipadyate. So you know that I am this limitless conscious being who does not lack anything. Then what? Atra Rajaputrasya Raja Pratyayavat Brahma Pratyaha Dridhi Bhavati. So here, even how this Rajaputra now firmly knows that he is the Raja only, correct? He is no more a hunter. Similarly, this Asamsari Aham, that is now Drida. That has become firm, that I am the Samsari, and all is given up. That knowledge is negated. You are this limitless Brahman. That is the Pratya. That cognition alone is firm. And then now Bhashyakara is connecting that. Vispulingavadeva tvam parasmat brahmanaha brashtaha. So like even the spark became separated from the fire. It was all one, but it became separated as though. Like that only this Paramatma has become the Jivatma. But here the Tatparya is not to show the difference, but the Ekatvam. Originally you are all one only. That oneness only is the Tatparya here, not to show the difference. That's what Bhashyakara is pointing out here. So Vispulungasya Prag Agnehe Brahmshat Agni Ekatva Darshanat. So what is the teaching here? Because any analogy if you give, analogy is not the entire teaching. Understand that. Many confusions come because people overanalyze the analogy or the example. The example is never the actual teaching, correct? There is some similarity. What is the similarity you have to identify properly? If you do not identify the example's similarity with what is being really revealed properly, your understanding itself will not be correct. So here the Agni Vispulinga is not to show the difference between the Agni and the Vispulinga. It's not to show the difference between fire and the spark. What is being taught is originally fire and spark were only one. So the Tatparya here is to know the Ekatvam prior oneness, at least, not the later difference. The difference is already established. Difference is there right now. It need not be even taught by the Shruti, correct? What the Shruti is trying to show is from this, whatever difference you are seeing is not the reality. In fact, oneness alone is the reality. That's how it was also. Before all this difference came due to ignorance. Therefore, what? Tasmat Ekatva Pratyaya Dhardhyaya Swarnamani Loha Agni Vispulinga Drishtantaha. So all the different analogies. Swarnamani, iron. See, even in Chandogya Upanishad, all this Gata, Mrit, Mritika Ityeva Satyam and all is there, correct? Vacharammanam Vikaro Namadheyam Mritika Ityeva Satyam. There, in fact, even the iron also is taken. Nakanikrindanam and all it talks about. In the Upanishad time only, our people had nail cutters. If somebody had nail cutters and all that, that means they had a reasonable civilization, correct? So, everything, whatever is made up of iron is iron alone. Whatever is made up of mud is mud alone. Whatever is made up of gold is gold alone. These are all the analogies given. There, what is the Tatparya? Or even whatever is from the fire alone, all the sparks have come. From the gold alone, all the jewelries have come. From the mud, only all the whole mud universe has come. From iron only, the entire iron universe is there. Whatever is made up of iron. When this Drishtanta is given, what is the Tatparya? It is not to show the multiplicity, but to show the oneness. Understand that. Which alone oneness, and then there is only one cause, which is the real Satyam, because the effect does not have an independent existence of its own. So all these examples are only to show the oneness. Na Utpatyadi Bheda Pratipadana Paraha. They are not to show that since many things are born from this one, the many things are real. That's not the Tatparya here. Understand that. In fact, since the many things are born from this one alone is Satyam. All these many things are only appearances. They are only names and forms. That's what the Shruti itself says, that Vacharammanam Vikaro Namadheyam Mritika Ityeva Satyam. Even though the Shruti is so clearly teaching, I don't know how anybody can even misinterpret all these things. You can only misinterpret it if you already come with some closed mind, or you can see it is like debating clubs in colleges, correct? The same person can debate, or even on our TVs nowadays, useless debates are happening between politically minded people, because they are already committed to some political party and all that. Whatever they do is always correct. They can always argue like that. That doesn't mean much, really, correct? If you are interested to establish the truth, you have to come with an open mind. You have to come with the mind which will see what the Upanishad really wants to reveal. You don't come with your own agenda and then try to fit that somehow. My Guruji used to say that you are trying to wring some meaning out of that. It is as though like you have washed the clothes, you have to wring out the water to dry it, correct? But even if you wring how much ever you want, whatever meaning you are trying to get out from that, it's not going to come. And Bhashyakara quotes here, Saindava Ghanavat Pragnapti Eka Rasanaihi Antarya Avadharana. So Saindava Ghanavat, so even as though like the lump of salt. So Saindava Ghana is used even in Aitreya Upanishad also. It is talked about Prajnana Ghana. Like Saindava Ghana, this Prajnana Ghana, this Atma is nothing but only consciousness. It is densely conscious, means what? Consciousness alone is there. Like even in the salt lump, everything is really salt alone. There is nothing else. Like that, the Shruti gives this example of this Saindava Ghana. Okay. So it talks about the nature of this self and Brahman also as like the Prajnana Ghana. Okay. So that being the case, it is teaching like that lump of salt is nothing but salt. Like that, whatever is there here, everything is homogeneous. It is all only consciousness. There is a homogeneity, there is no heterogeneity or differences and all that. That is how it has to be ascertained, it has to be known, it has to be interpreted properly. So the self has been interpreted like that only, it has been taught, it has been revealed like that only. Okay, that it has to be understood like that, or it has been understood like that. That is why it is teaching Ekada Eva Anudrashtavyam Brihadaranyaka itself. You have to see it in only one, as one. Okay, you have to see the reality as only one. There is no real many. Okay, so it first positively Bhashyakara shows how the reality has to be seen as only one. Ekadha eva anudrashtavyam. Then what? Yadi cha brahmanaha chitra patavat vriksha samudradivat cha utpatyadi aneka dharma vichitrata vijigraha ishita ekarasam saindava ganavad anantaram abahyam iti no na upasamharishyat. Okay, so now Bhashyakara points out the other point. What he says, if the Shruti really wants to teach that all these differences are the reality, like even the Chitrapata, within you draw a picture, within that you are drawing many things, correct? In a scenery, there are so many things you are drawing. There are many things. Or you take a tree, it has so many parts. Because this tree example, Vishishtadvaitins and all they give. In fact, Bhashyakara has already even answered that here. Or even Samudra is having many waves. So, if that manyness is what the Upanishad wanted to really teach, it will not end its teaching or summarize its teaching saying that you have to see everything as one. Correct? It will then say you have to see everything as many. It's not going to say you have to see everything as homogeneous one. Their homogeneity also is very important, because the Vishishtadvaitins say within the one there are many. Even that is negated, because that is why Saindava Ghana is very important. It is all homogeneous. There is no heterogeneity. It is only one. And so if it had the desire to teach you that through all this, through this Srishti Prakriya, that everything is different, like even things in a chitra, in a painting, or in the tree, different parts are there, or even in Samudra, so many waves and different water bodies are there, correct? It's not like that. So if it wanted to teach you Aneka Dharma Vichitrata, means that there are many different things, many qualities, and they are all different Vichitra. If it wanted to teach that, it will not talk about Ekarasam, it will not talk about homogeneity, oneness, like even the Saindava Ghana, like even the salt, lump of salt. And it also talks about the reality as Anantaram, Abahyam and all that. That which is not having anything inside separately or some outside and all that. There is no inside, outside. In fact, it negates all types of dharmas. So then where are you even talking about any Dvaita? It negates all kinds of duality in Atma. So it won't be ending the teaching like that. Iti na upasamharishyat. Therefore, whatever you say is not correct. So he again points out. Also, ekada eva anudrashtavyam iti cha na prayokshata. So it will not have started like this, correct? So if it wanted to really teach, it will not be ending like that. Nor it would say that it has to be realized in only one form or in as one. Okay. And not only that, about oneness he has shown. Now, Shruti is also condemning duality, negating duality. Why? Yeah, here Nana Eva Pashyati. Okay, the one who sees many here, then Shruti is condemning seeing this Nana Drishti also. Then you will go from death to death and all it says. Even in Kathopanishad also it is there. Those who see duality here, many things here, they will only go from death to death. So that is also Ninda also is there. So oneness is taught, manyness is condemned. That being the case, we cannot interpret the Shruti in any other way. So Tasmat Eka Rupa Ekatva Pratyaya Dardhyaya Eva Sarva Vedanteshu Utpatti Sthiti Layadi Kalpana Na Tat Pratyaya Karanaya. So all this talk about creation and sustenance and dissolution, everything of all the different Vedantas of the Upanishads is only to show the oneness of the reality, correct? Oneness of yourself. It is not to establish the creation itself or anything like that. It is not to show the manyness. Okay, so that is what we have to understand. So this he has established now very beautifully. Then Bhashyakara turns his attention further to this Veda Vedavadi. He says, if Ekadesha is samsari, correct? Paramatma is asamsari, but one part of that asamsari has become samsari, jiva and all that. If you say that imagination, that kalpana is also illogical, he is trying to show the Veda Vedavadin's interpretation is illogical. Okay, because Paramatma does not have any difference, different parts or anything. Adeshatvat, he says, Swataha Adeshatvat Paramatmanaha. Paramatma cannot be located. Paramatma cannot have any parts. Okay, therefore, Ekadesha and all you cannot say. The one part of it, that which is a partless whole, how can you find any parts in that? Therefore, the Upanishad is very clearly revealing the Paramatma as a partless whole. There you cannot go and get one part and then say that has alone become the Jivatma and all that. That also is illogical in many ways. We will see all that next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.